Well, hello everyone. Welcome to a not Lynx edition because it is a Wolves edition, different overlay episode of the Missing Wolves post-game live stream podcast thing. I'm Andrew Dukowitz from Zone Coverage and Chris Hines from the Star Tribune joining me today to talk a little bit of LaMelo ball before Will Eudy pops in a little later to talk about kind of the Charlotte side of this trade. But Chris, how are you? I assume busy like I am.
Days on the beat. So I wouldn't say it's the craziest day I've had, but it's up there.
Yeah, I don't know if it was like a sixth sense or what happened, but it seemed like Twitter just all exploded at about 8 a.m. this morning. LaMelo Ball gets traded to Minnesota. I guess just what was your kind of initial takeaway to the news when you saw it right away this morning?
Well, I was preparing for it last night when, the rumors and the trade interest that Charlotte was listening to offers started to get out there, and just knowing that the Wolves have really liked LaMelo for a long time. And the question always was Charlotte ever going to be interested? And or in the Giannis trade, they had to go, we had to see how that played out and everything. But they've liked LaMelo for a long time. He became available and they got him. And so when I saw those rumors start to come out last night, I was like, they're going to be in this one to the very end. And so I wasn't surprised this morning when I saw that a deal got done.
Yeah, I guess I was in a similar headspace where I started to see it last night. All of you guys saying, there's interest. And then I heard from a couple Charlotte people of like, yeah, it kind of seems like they're ready to move on from them. It was kind of interesting how, last couple days, Tim and Matt Lloyd are talking about Naz Reid's impact coming into this season, being a more playmaker, and then he's just kind of gone. I guess from your perspective on the Naz Reid side of it, what's this kind of mean for him moving forward? And just was it at all kind of weird seeing that Naz's name was in this and not like a Rudy or one of the older than 26 guys?
Yeah, I think that was probably the more surprising part of this, that Nas was the one who ends up going. But it also makes sense that that's what that's who Charlotte would want back. They would want back a younger, dynamic sort of forward who's best basketball is likely in front of them, right? I feel like that's what you would want, as opposed to as good as Rudy Gobert is, 33 years old right now. So it makes sense that that's what probably where they put their foot down, I'm guessing, in negotiations, along with that 2033 draft pick as well. So it hurts. I mean, look, I've seen the Wolves fans reacting on social media, people posting their Instagram stories, thank you to Nas. It's people that I know that are friends, family, Naz Reid's their favorite player. They're upset a little bit today as well. So it's tough. It's tough. It's a tough day from that end of things.
Yeah, and for Nas, I mean, you got to just think the opportunity in Charlotte is going to be there for him to still be a starter, hopefully, and still be on a team that's competitive. I guess from the LaMelo coming inside, is Chris Finch going to be able to like keep all of his luxurious hair throughout the season? Because it's quite stressful.
Well, hey, here's the thing, though. Chris Finch came to the Wolves with a reputation as one of the best offensive coaches in the NBA, or best assistants in the NBA. And I really feel like the last 3-4 years, they haven't had the personnel to really optimize the offense. So, Chris Finch, could be able to maybe spread his wings a little bit offensively again. We'll see how it all shakes out with, the fit. How much is LaMelo going to play? Who do they get at the starting four? All these kind of things still have to be answered. But, I think back to one of the reasons why Gerson Rosas brought Chris Finch in, and it was to help be creative on the offensive end of the floor. Maybe now with a player like LaMelo, that gets unlocked a little bit.
It does seem like on the surface, you got a guy like LaMelo that is a really gifted passer, that is a gifted shot maker. I mean, he does play in I don't know if it's the same flow state that Chris Finch is always talking about, but does play with a lot of kind of flow and making good reads. It kind of feels like this might be the first time we get to see what Chris Finch's actual ideal offense looks like, right?
It could be, and they've talked about wanting to play with a lot of pace and play in transition. LaMelo is certainly going to do that, contribute to that as well. I really think so. This should be a floor spacing, fast reaction, kind of offense that is going to make teams pick their poison. I think that just at a first blush, it's, teams are not going to be able to load up on Anthony Edwards the way that they used to. Because could you imagine just Ant getting double teamed 25 feet away from the basket, throws a simple bounce pass to LaMelo, and all of a sudden LaMelo ball's going downhill facing 4-on-3. Like, teams are not going to want to put themselves in that position. So it's going to create some interesting dynamics, I think, for them offensively, that with a Julius Randle, Rudy Gobert front court the last 2 years, it just clogged things up for them. The floor is not going to be clogged this season.
No, and especially, I mean, Io's re-signed. Jaden shot 40% from 3 last year. Dante, at some point, I would assume, is going to try and make it back this season towards the end. I mean, those guys, this is going to benefit a ton just as knockdown shooters, right?
Absolutely. And whether it's shooting or whether it's just taking advantage of a scrambled defense off the bounce, we'll see kind of the learning curve of LaMelo and Rudy as a potential, lob threat, lob pairing. As we know, and as has been documented, sometimes it takes a little bit to adjust to, where Rudy catches the ball best, to put it lightly. So we'll see how that pairing develops over time. But I think LaMelo's he's a really gifted passer. I think he can figure it out.
Yeah, oddly, with Rudy, one of the first things I thought of this morning was like, well, this probably means Mike's back. He has to teach another guy how to pass to Rudy. This kind of helps Mike's case, right?
I think so, and I think I think Mike. I haven't spoken to Mike or anything like that, but we know Mike wants to be around a team that has a chance of legitimately competing for a title. I think he just might want to come along for the ride for the entertainment value, like the rest of us, because
Mike,
this is going to be fun.
Mike at one point last year was in the back, was walking around with all of the kids on the team, like Jaden's kid, his kid, Julius's kid. And I kind of laughed at him and was like, oh, you're just the babysitter tonight. And he just kind of laughed and went, I'm the babysitter every night. You know that. And I think he'd be okay with me saying that. He's talked about it publicly, but two, I mean, LaMelo and Ant are going to need some babysitting, I think, right?
We shall see. I'm just, it's whether it goes well, whether it goes bad, either way, it's going to be must-see TV, and it's going to give folks like you and me a lot of stuff to talk about. Either way, no matter which direction it goes, it's nothing if not entertaining, for sure.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting, and it's going to be fun. And as Pack Mentality says, it might be a PR nightmare, which, shout out to those guys for how
not a PR nightmare for us. Right. Exactly.
Yeah, this is great for us. The content's going to be incredible. The guys that try and monitor the content, not so much. Chris, kind of as we get into the free agency portion of this, I guess what do you think the Wolves are kind of turning their attention to? They're pretty much right at the second apron. What's kind of the next domino that you think?
I would expect trying to figure out some sort of trade to get a viable power forward in here. They get Josh Green in the deal. He's on an expiring contract. I don't know. Josh Green is a good player. But I don't know that they got a lot of guards right now. So if they can pivot off of his expiring contract to find a power forward, that to me is maybe what it's looking like, because they're not going to sign anybody. They don't have the room right now to sign somebody and stay below the second apron. So even though they have access to like the taxpayer mid-level, I would not expect them to use it. It's going to be minimums from here on out for the rest of the roster. It's looking like, just to stay under the second apron, and anybody that comes in that's not a minimum player, is going to be via trade. It seems like, just based on the numbers. So, can they get 2 players out of a trade? 1 for 2, who knows? We'll see. But right now, that's what it's looking like.
And I mean, again, if you're a fan, like who are they going to target? Like, it would make a lot of sense now that we are seeing the Mike Conley, the Bones Highland, the Jalen Clark, the guys that have been here that are going to be cheap, starting to sign those deals unless somebody's overpaying them, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, bringing back Kyle Anderson just became a little more important, I feel like, for this team. And having somebody who could just slot into the 4 position there and give you minutes. I think that's going to be important now. The Wolves are pretty good about, maintaining those relationships, bringing those guys back into the fold. So, they've got some decisions to make here. But they've got the room to bring a lot of those guys back.
And I suppose I do want to give you a chance before you get out of here. I hear you have a lovely book that is still available for purchase, and everyone should buy. What book have you been working on the last 2 years?
Yeah, it's been out for over a year now. Can you believe that?
I honestly can't believe that.
I know.
In frame.
Thank you. Yeah, it is called Ant, as you can see. And yeah, you can read part of it is, in Ant's rookie year, the rookie of the year race. I touched on that a little bit in from his first season with LaMelo Ball, where LaMelo edged him out for a rookie of the year in both of their rookie years. And now it's just crazy to think, like, the Wolves back then were trying to decide Ant, LaMelo, James Wiseman, and now here we are 6 years later, and Ant and LaMelo are on the same team.
James Wiseman's a free agent. They need
that's
size.
Right. Might as well just give him a 2-way or something. I don't know. I think he's aged out of a 2-way, but bring him in. What the hell?
That would be fun. Just bring the whole class in. Just nice little reunion. I'm sure Ant would actually love that. Like, being able to be like, yeah, I'm definitely the one that worked out.
Yeah, exactly. Look at the list here. Yeah, exactly. Wolves made the right choice.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Chris. Thanks for all you do, man. I know you're doing about 1 billion things today, so I appreciate you taking time to talk. And this is more of a personal question, but are you back in town for the Summer League training camp, all of that?
I will be there. I'll be back in town next week. Yeah, so you'll see me around. Yep.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. I appreciate it. For everyone in here, I'm going to throw us to some ads while we're waiting on Will Eudy, and Chris is going to go off and do bigger and better things this evening. Well, hello. Thank you, Livestream Andrew. This is Ad Read Andrew. And today we have Firehawk Construction and Remodeling, the presenting sponsor for the Missing Links podcast. Firehawk Construction and Remodeling strives to inspire people to follow their ideas, working with respect and understanding to create a quality, tailored result. Firehawk Construction and Remodeling, located in Blaine and serving in the North Metro area, is here to help you with your building and remodeling needs. I can say personally, thanks to Firehawk Construction and Remodeling, I have a beautiful deck in my backyard, and countless projects that I started, they finished. Get started on your new deck or remodel today by calling Isaac at 763-710-5686. One more ad read here quick, and then we'll be back. And we're back with another ad read. This time for Pence Homes, the presenting sponsor of Hitting the Hardwood Network. From the best tools and technology to transparency throughout the entire process, Nate Pence and the Pence Homes team is the top choice for buyers, sellers, and is proud to support you and your home ownership goals. Get started today by calling 612-308-1222 1122 or by emailing info@pencehomes.com. Shout out to Pence Homes and Firehawk Construction. It is that time of the year, and Firehawk Construction is looking for decks to work on. So feel free to give them a call if you do need a deck refurbished or made. Did want to just talk about a little bit more of the LaMelo trade while we are waiting on Will to join the show. And honestly, just talk more about kind of like the X's and O's of it, because I think Chris brought up a really good point of, Ant's not going to be doubled. Maybe not again for at least the foreseeable future, because bringing in LaMelo, Ant really hasn't played with a player like him before, or certainly at his caliber, where if Ant gets doubled across half court like the Spurs did to him when he came back from his injury, or even as we saw last season, as kind of the standings got tighter, teams were doing more and more often. And it isn't going to happen. Like, your outlet is no longer, Dante DiVincenzo, Ayo DeSumo, or Mike Conley. It's LaMelo Ball, who is one of the more gifted passers in the league, covering the links. I honestly, it's hard not to compare some of their playmaking abilities to each other. And that's Olivia Miles, because LaMelo does have that ability to just like understand the point guard stuff. Like, people I've reached out to today that I've talked to, as the sun is beaming in, and you're going to get a lovely close up of me now as I scoot forward. But I think the thing that LaMelo gets a bad rap for is you see some of the highlights where he's just doing the between the legs pull up fade away three from the logo, or the like guys wide open and he's just driving in for like a weird finger roll layup. And I think the more like apt reality of it is like he does those things sometimes, but the vast majority of the time he's making the right read. I mean, you look at I kind of dug into it earlier this morning, of just, you look at the true shooting percentages of players that are getting passes from LaMelo Ball compared to their season averages, and it's like 8 to 10% up across the board for almost every one of the players, which, like, that's telling me that he understands like when to get people the ball when they're open. I think the other thing that's I've really appreciated just catching up on like LaMelo's career is, like, teammates do genuinely seem to love him. Like, it doesn't seem like there's any like animosity of like, oh, how is LaMelo going to fit in a locker room? Like, dudes love him. And part of that comes from, he just gets the point guardy stuff, right? Like, I don't think there are going to be times this season where Jaden doesn't touch the ball for 9 minutes. Like, I do think LaMelo has that, whatever that hardwired thing is that point guards have, that say, hey, this guy hasn't touched it, or hey, Rudy hasn't been involved in 45 minutes of real basketball time. Like, we got to run a play for them. And that's something they didn't have last year. Like, Ant, I don't think has that recognition. Like, nor should he. He's not a point guard. Like, it'd be very weird if Kobe Bryant just like had that recognition at age 24, or Dwayne Wade had that recognition at 24. Like, you just don't. That usually is something that comes when you're in your 30s, if at all. And LaMelo has it. I also think the Julius Randle like fit of, kind of the running the offense hub, like, he also didn't really have that. Like, he was either looking for who's open in the spots that he had to throw it to, or trying to get himself going. And then you look at Dante and Ayo, and both of them are like, yes, Ayo won a Bob Cousy Point Guard of the Year award in college, and Dante had the best assist to turnover ratio of his career, but they're both like more natural off guard, like knockdown shooters. Ayo's ability to like drive at the basket. Like, this roster just makes sense now. And I know kind of the pushback from a lot of, the national side of this is like, oh gosh, they don't have any picks until 2034 in their own control. Well, and what are they going to do at power forward? And it's like, I don't know, LaMelo Ball and Anthony Edwards as your starting backcourt. And then you throw in a guy that is, what, a 10-time all defense. I'm in Lynx mode, so I don't have all of the accolades memorized at this point. But like Rudy Gobert as a defender, you also have like Jaden Io as defenders. Eventually, Dante will be back as a defender. Johan is going to be, I think, a surprisingly good defender this year. I think this team just makes sense. Like it just, and that was kind of my biggest complaint of all last year was just like you're playing with a team that just fundamentally has way too much isolation, way too much not reading the floor. And now all of a sudden, again, you have a guy who has made his entire career reading the floor. I also have kind of chuckled quite a bit at like the narratives over the last few days of just like, Tim Connelly trades Randall for nothing, and he's kind of labeled in at least the Wolves Twitterverse. So I was like, oh, this buffoon. Like again, if you just on it. Oh, as I'm back on its surface, if you say, hey, you traded Julius Randle and Naz Reid, shed salary, got back LaMelo Ball and Josh Green, who Green I am assuming is, like Chris said, going to be rerouted to another team in the near future. If not, if that news doesn't come out soon, I'd be surprised because they just need the money at this point more than anything. Like, yes, if they can get a starting four for him, that's awesome. But at this point, they just need money. That's kind of the most clear path of they're right up against the second apron. They just need money to sign warm bodies, and you can get 4 vet minimums in Josh Green's contract, and you got to have warm bodies on an NBA team. But on a more like kind of finishing my thought matter of none of these Wolves pick swaps were going to be above 20 anyways, and you're trading that 2033 first. So for all intents and purposes, you traded Julius Randle, Naz Reid, and 1 first-round pick for essentially like a guy that's going to be $12 million in salary cap to sign players, and LaMelo Ball, who, last year was the best year of his career. He had an offensive rating of over 120. Defensive, like advanced analytics aren't great for him, but he played well against guards. And it's hard for me to see where all of the like D minuses and Fs for trades values have been nationally. But Will is joining me now. Will, how's it going, man? Also, doing the grind down in Charlotte for Culture, the new gig.
Absolutely. Yeah. Hey, good to be here, man. And yeah, I'm writing over on culture.com now. So it's good working over there. Got some great folks, and man, what a wild day we've all had so far.
Yeah, Chris was on here before, and I want to get your immediate reactions too. But like, when this stuff started to circle last night, like, oh, LaMelo, they are looking to move him. All of us kind of went like, oh, okay, that might be the one. So I kind of started digging into it a little bit. I thought for sure it would be Rudy going out for LaMelo, but ends up being Naz Reid. I guess just, Will, what was your kind of initial reactions to the trade when it happened this morning? We may have lost Will, so I am going to continue to talk until Will comes back here, and then we're going to get into more of like who LaMelo is, what he's like behind the scenes, and more of the like Charlotte beat reporter side of it. But while we're catching up on it, I do want to catch up on chats. As JoJo says, the Lord has blessed us. Farah, who has been in the chat for a long time here, kind of agreeing with the Josh Green rerouting for a big. Also, really mentions it's really going to be tough to see Naz not on the Timberwolves. Like I'm not going to sit here and pretend that that's not going to be weird next year. Like the first time Charlotte comes to Minnesota, it's going to be an absolute party, and it's going to be like it's going to be a really good farewell package, I would imagine, for him. Pack mentality mentions Melo's going to learn quickly, as Io did. Shoot, someone give Joe Ingles a call to get back. I'm going to be honest, Joe might be interested. I know he's playing in the Australian league, but Worse ideas out there than having Joe Ingles come back and teach someone how to throw lobs to Rudy. Will, before you cut out here, I was just asking you, what was your kind of initial reactions to the LaMelo trade? Because it seems like the Wolves have wanted him for a while. Will is here. Can you hear me, Will? Will may not be able to hear me. This is the benefit of live streams. I'm going to keep catching up on chat while Will's getting his audio working here, but Pack Mentality and Farah mentioned that there's no more underdog story for the Wolves. Like, this is going to be a team that's on TV a ton. Aaron adds one of the craziest backcourts in the W and in the NBA. Completely agree with that as well. I mean, Olivia Miles and Courtney Williams on one end, and then you have a ridiculous LaMelo Ball and Anthony Edwards, which, like, the correlations of those, I'm at some point in the Wolves season going to look back at a lot of Courtney's quotes and kind of compare them to Ant's quotes about being able to play shooting guard again and do a piece on how similar they are, because I feel like there's going to be a lot of Anthony Edwards quotes where it's just like, I'm free to just play my game. I don't have to worry about anything except for hooping. That's LaMelo's job. Just like Court has been like, hey, I'm free to play my game. I just get to hoop. That's Court's job. Kevman adds, what an amazing trade. Completely agree. Like, I'm not a big trade grader, but like, when you're looking at what the Wolves are kind of transitioning into of that sub 26 core, you moved off of Naz Reid, who is on the older end of that sub 26 core. You move off of Julius Randle, who was not in that sub 26 core, and you fill that void with a guy that's the same age of Ant, that has made an all-star game, that played 72 games last year and kind of revitalized that Hornets team, and just makes sense. Kind of like I had said a few minutes ago, it just, I can't stress enough how much this team is just going to look more like a basketball team that makes sense. There's not going to be just a ton of stuff run out of the post. It's not going to be Rudy and Randall kind of sitting in the post, dribbling and trying to figure out how to create space. This is going to be fast. It's going to be fun. They are going to be surrounded by shooters. Again, Io and Jaden both shot 40% from three. Mike in the playoffs was a really good three-point shooter. They just drafted a guy out of Duke that's a really good three-point shooter. Really, the only two guys in the rotation, kind of without free agency coming by, the only two guys that can't shoot are Rudy and Johan. And Johan's 20 years old. Maybe he'll develop that jump shot, which, again, that's the fun part. You just never know. Will says he's going to get to a place with better Wi-Fi and rejoin. So he will be back at some point here soon to talk about the more Charlotte-y side of it. But again, the Johan minutes, as Spencer mentions, they're going to be awesome. Again, you're going from last year being new still to the game, still kind of figuring out the language. Matt Lloyd made a joke last night that like he learned English, which was a difficult thing to do. And I kind of joke about on the links where like Courtney Williams is from the same part of Georgia as Anta is. Like, that's a different type of English if you're from France. Like, you got to kind of figure out that dialect. And again, you just look at what Johan is going to be walking into now with a point guard that can throw those lobs, that knows how to use screens, that is going to be able to set him up well. I think for Johan, it's going to be really telling in Summer League, though, which this is a cheap plug to watch Summer League, I guess. But like, can he stay out of foul trouble? Summer League is a guards league. There's going to be a ton of drives going at Johan and trying to see and test what he is like as a prospect. Like, can he stay on the court? And if he's able to perform pretty well in Summer League, again, my assumption would be that he's able to play, at least bench minutes, because Summer League, a lot of times it is kind of G League guys or bench guys that you're playing against. I think the other thing that is going to be telling with Johan is just how much has his offense developed, because I mean, I can attest from being at the practices, like he's staying late every single day with Kevin Hansen, working on footwork, working on push hook shots, working on his mid-range. And like, if that's far enough along, I think we're going to see it right away in summer league of just how far that guy has come. A couple people have brought up just, the Evans pick and what that could be. Farah mentions excited to see him play in summer league, as am I. I think summer league got a little bit more interesting with that pick, because I had kind of been under some impression that they might move back again, which then you're looking at like, okay, you're just getting maybe two-way contract guys in summer leagues. Like Evans is going to have a shot. I don't think he's going to be playing big minutes, especially after this LaMelo trade. My guess is, you probably have Ant and LaMelo both playing 30 to 38 minutes a game. And then you transition from that to Io. If they do add a starting caliber power forward, Io probably gets the majority of the rest of those backup minutes. Again, more just out of like necessity of Io is a very competent player. I also, if Mike is back, anticipate Mike still having a role on this team. I don't think it'll be 25 minutes per game role, but I do foresee Mike still getting that like 7-8 minutes of let's just keep things calm and see where it goes. And then the other side of it is the TJ Shannon of it all, where they really did kind of have this epiphany moment towards the end of last season, as Spencer brings up. They kind of had this epiphany moment of how good he can be with the ball in his hands. And, Ant playing more off ball. LaMelo is able to play off ball really well as a shooter. Io is able to play off ball. I think TJ is going to be getting quite a few minutes in that rotation as well. But that doesn't mean that like Evans is just cast aside and we'll never see him. Like injuries happen. I do think we're going to see glimpses of him. The main thing I would kind of pump the brakes on with Evans as at least this season, just being realistic, like he's really skinny. He does have good size. I think he's like 6'5", 6'6" at the combine, but like very slim guy, needs to put on some muscle just to like avoid injuries more than anything else. And then there are just like his assist to turnover ratio is like 1-to-1 on a bench guy. It's hard to, especially for a Chris Finch bench guy, it's hard to see a guy that is fairly turnover prone to get a ton of playing time. And this team's just all of a sudden really deep at guards, which again, it's going to be really, again, it's going to be fun, kind of as me and Chris talked about. Catching up on chat again, Kevman, Mike Conley, great teacher and mentor. Completely agree. Also, like his family lives here. I think his kid's like a hockey prodigy or something. Like not many states that are better to have like a hockey prodigy son. I would assume, if the Wolves do go forward and making him like a minimum offer, I would assume this is probably the top of Conley's list, especially when you're looking at, hey, I can still maybe carve out some minutes and this is going to be a competitive team. Also really good relationship with Finch, really good relationship with Ant and Jaden and all of those guys. Just makes a lot of sense. Pack mentality says when Rudy sits, they should play Johan. That's my interpretation. It's the way has been cleared. There's not a whole lot of other bigs that are going to be able to get in his way. Farah asks who takes the Micah spot for assistant coach. I've been kind of interested with that because I do think Micah was like the number 2, obviously here, right? And I don't know if Finch just like designates this is my new like assistant coach, vice president role, or if he goes with kind of a committee approach. It's kind of mind-boggling. Like, he's been with Mike and Nori for like his entire Wolves tenure, all the way going back to Denver. Like, those guys have kind of been attached at the hip. And I don't know if maybe now it's just, hey, Elston Turner, you are fully in charge of the defense. This is your baby. Have fun. And then he looks at Pablo and says, Pablo, you're fully in charge of the offense. Have fun. And then it's just Finch is doing kind of the things that Finch is really good at, which is like managing the personalities, having tough conversations, kind of keeping the team moving forward in that way. Or if they do go out and try and get some other head coach or assistant coach, or, you know, you kind of think of like the Golden State Warriors. They always have like some recently let go of head coach pop up on their staff and stay for a couple of years and then move on. Tom Thibodeau, I mean, he was at Target Center last year for a couple weeks. Maybe Tibbs is back. I would say that's a long shot, but that could be the type of guy. Spencer says, curious to see if Jeff Green, Jalen Clark, if he returns, and Mike Conley trade exception used to try and get that looming fourth. I think it could be. I'm going to be honest. This Wolves team is like right at the second apron right now. Like, with Jeff Green on the team, I think they have 5 open roster spots. And I realize the video quality with the sun coming in is not ideal, but with Jeff Green coming in, I think it's unlikely that they would be able to get like a $20 million, $24 million power forward. I think it's more likely that they opt for, you know, maybe a 4 or 5 million just over the veteran minimum guy, and then they try and round out the roster that way. But not Jeff Green, Josh Green, sorry. But, you know, it's going to be interesting because there also is a situation where, like, if chips fall a certain way, maybe A-Rod and Laurie say, like, fuck the aprons and let's just go for it and see where they can get to. But Will is here from a coffee shop now. And Will, how are you?
I'm good, man. I apologize for the technical difficulties, but like I said, I hopped across the street, found me a little bit better Wi-Fi, and I'm here. So.
I am dealing with blinding sun, so this is just the perks of a live stream. Will, I did want to get your take before you dropped out of just what was your initial kind of reaction to that LaMelo trade this morning when you saw it go through?
Yeah, like you said earlier when I was in here for a second, it's been a whirlwind of like 20 hours since this news dropped or something like that. I don't know how it's only been 20 hours. It feels like it's been a few days. I think my initial reaction was a little less shocked because of obviously it being reported last night. So like you said, kind of knew something was maybe in the works, but you know, these kind of things get thrown around a lot. And if anything, you think, well, probably something that'll get resolved more so like towards the start of free agency in another week or so. But man, they just went ahead and did it. My initial reaction was, wow, they really broke up this Hornets core that had so much success in the second half of last season. You know, they really had the injuries to begin last year, but from January, middle of January or so on, and they're one of the best teams in the league. And I think everybody thought they're going to run it back. They're going to be a top 5 or 6 team in the East, and excited to see where it goes. I was on that same train, but clearly the Hornets front office at some level thought, we don't think LaMelo is ultimately the guy that's going to get us where we want to go. Again, surprising to me because he was the core of this offense, which was a very good offense in the second half of the year. But, you know, I think in a way it does make sense because it's a sell high, right? It's, man, we got him for 72 games finally. He couldn't stay healthy the previous 3 seasons. We finally got a full season out of him. His value's high. Let's find somebody who wants him, and let's try to get a lot back. It's a big swing. We'll see how it turns out.
Yeah, I guess reporting I've heard and kind of people that I've talked to, it sounds like LaMelo is kind of shocked that he got dealt. It didn't sound like he was asking out or like trying to get out of there. Is that kind of your perception of it too?
From what I understand, yeah, because he has said multiple times, man, I kind of like being in Charlotte. I don't really want to be out of here. There was a few months ago where there was some sort of rumor that, you know, he had asked out or he wanted to be somewhere else. And he came out on Twitter and refuted it himself and was like, absolutely not. Like, I want to be in Charlotte. Yeah, there's definitely been talk that, like, you know, a lot of superstars want to go to LA or Miami or whatever. But I think there was always this kind of perception that he kind of likes having Charlotte be his place. You know, again, like a lot of places you're going to go and you're going to be a speck in the grand scheme of things because either the franchise or the city or whatever is so much bigger than you are. But LaMelo, you know, he's just such a big star that he takes on this persona where, you know, you could argue he was bigger than the Hornets brand himself, right?
Yeah, I would honestly kind of agree. I guess, like, you know, you've been covering the team the last few years down there. Just what's kind of the perception of LaMelo behind the scenes? Like, what's he like as a locker room guy? I think a lot of Minnesota or a lot of Timberwolves fans only know LaMelo from like Ball in the Family, LeVar Ball, and the traffic incidents. What's he like kind of outside of that stuff, though?
Well, I gotta tell you, man, you know, when it comes to like the Ball in the Family and all that kind of stuff, I think that plays into who he is at a pretty deep level because you gotta think, man, he was on TV as like, you know, a pseudo celebrity at like 14.
Yeah.
If you're in that kind of life, that's going to do something to you at some level. So from what I've seen, when it comes to media environments, when he's up at a podium, he's pretty reserved. He's not going to say a whole lot. And frankly, I understand. If I was in his position, if I grew up the way he did, I'd probably act the same way, right? You know that everything you say is going to be clipped and put on Bleacher Report, put on headlines. I'm kind of going to chill, man. I'm going to say a few words. I'm going to get out. I understand. But from everything I've heard, number one, from every interaction I've ever had with him and everything I've heard from people who are closer with him, he's a very down-to-earth guy. Yeah, he's goofy. He has fun. Maybe he says some stuff he shouldn't say every once in a while, maybe. But he's 24 years old. I think we all probably acted like that when we were in our early 20s.
Yep.
He's a guy that I think is, like I said, a very genuine guy. He cares about people. It just always doesn't show up in these little micro snapshots we get of him that go viral on social media, right?
Yeah. And I think that's, you know, it's kind of the perception versus reality of like a guy like Ant too, where it is, you know, Ant knows how to turn it on for the camera, and Ant is kind of always Ant all the time. But like when the camera isn't rolling, he's not a lot different, but he can just kind of tell that he puts it up a little bit when the camera is going. I mean, the other thing that I've kind of been struck by of just like the amount of teammates that have seemingly just like loved playing with LaMelo, which I feel like you're probably doing something right if you have that type of like approval rating of former teammates that love you, right?
Yeah, I would definitely say so. And I agree. I mean, I think LaMelo makes all his teammates better. I don't know of a single player that has gotten worse from playing alongside him. That's definitely an area where the Hornets are going to struggle for sure in this coming years. Like I said, and like you said yourself, he's the engine of the offense, right? At least in Charlotte, he was. Now he's got definitely the best teammate of his career, probably in Ant. But I mean, made everybody better with the Hornets. I mean, from Khan to Brandon to Miles, all those guys, I think, looked better just for his playmaking brilliance and his ability to elevate teammates. So, yeah, I think he's a great guy off the court, good locker room presence. You definitely saw some things from this past season about him stepping up as a leader and maturing a little bit. I honestly wrote something about how even way back to like media day before the season last year, so going back, like 9 months to September, there was like a little subtle difference in how he acted, how he talked to the media. I think he's getting a little bit older, a little bit more mature. Again, I don't know the guy personally, but if I'm just using these outside clues, I would say he's turning the corner at least a little bit in that way. And yeah, of course, all his teammates love him for it.
So kind of from the Wolves perspective, he's joining a team that has Anthony Edwards, who is one of the most highly doubled players in the league last year. He's joining a team with Io and Jaden, who both shot 40% on pretty good volume 3-point shootings. And Rudy, who is one of the desperately wanting more lobs. I would qualify him. I was like, hey, this is a guy that really wants the ball at the rim significantly more than he gets it. I mean, how do you see LaMelo fitting in with that? Because again, having not watched more than 10 Hornets games over the last 3 years, on the surface, it just seems like it's going to be awesome for the Wolves.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the fit for Timberwolves. Like you said, center of the offense in Charlotte makes everybody better there. I think he's going to do the same thing in Minnesota. And yeah, I think Ant is the best teammate he's probably ever played with. So, of course, he's about to see way less doubles. That's a huge thing, right? Like, Ant's going to be able to play a little bit more of his game one-on-one, beating defenders one-on-one. If he finds LaMelo open for a three, he's going to knock that down every time. And like you said, with the Nas connection as well. Not the Nas connection. Nas is now Charlotte Hornet. The Rudy connection.
Ouch.
Yes. Sorry for that.
A bunch of fans listening just winced. I felt it.
Yeah, that one's on me. But for Rudy, probably the best guy in the locker room right now that can throw him a lob, probably Mike Conley, right? I mean, who has more chemistry with him than Mike Conley over the years? But as we know, Mike Conley is not what he once was. He's does not need to be playing that many minutes anymore. With all due respect, I do love Mike Conley. But having a guy like that who sees the floor so well, who makes plays out of nothing routinely, yeah, I believe it's definitely going to open up Rudy Gobert's offensive game too, which if you're getting a better version of Rudy offensively, and if he stays anywhere close to this level defensively too, I know he's getting older, but that's a fantastic player there too.
Yeah, I know some of the national media has been grading this trade as like a massive Hornets win. And like, I do want to talk about the Hornets side of it too, because I think they have the second most draft picks in the league right now, which is obnoxious. And they get another guy, in that 26 and under age range. But like for the Wolves, if you're looking at how can we compete next year and continue competing for the next 5 years, a healthy LaMelo Ball, which I think that's probably the biggest thing, is just the health of it. But like, it's hard to see this team going backwards. It's not like they're going to be a play-in team next year. But Will, I guess first on the draft picks, I mean, let's be honest, the pick swaps, probably not a lot of them are going to convert, but that 2033 unprotected Wolves first, if Ant's going to leave Minnesota, it would probably be in 2031, 2032. So that would be one of the first picks post Ants. I mean, I guess just what are kind of your thoughts on the draft pick side of what the Hornets got?
Yeah, the 2033 one, like you said, that's the wild card, right? If somehow the whole situation in Minnesota dissolves, that's the one that Hornets fans should be excited about, of course. As you alluded to, the other few first-round pick swaps may or may not be useful. In fact, it's probably a pretty good likelihood that they will not be useful, right? Because they are swaps. So if you have the worst record already, you're not going to swap, right? If it's like Charlotte finishes with the 10th pick in the draft, Minnesota has the 17th pick, you're not going to swap, right? You're just going to keep the 10th pick. And I think some people who aren't as keyed in on that stuff might forget that stuff. So it's not a swap because, right, if you don't gain something from swapping it, there's no point in doing it. So overall, with the swaps factored in, it's not as big of a haul as it probably looks on the surface. I know Shams reported as it's this big haul, and I think Jeff Peterson did an okay job with it, but it's maybe not as big of a haul as it looks like on the surface. I think, like you said, kind of what the Hornets were banking on here was the return to the law of averages when it comes to LaMelo's playing time, because I mean he played in the previous 3 seasons before this past season. I want to say he played around 35 games, around 20 games, and around 45 games.
Yeah.
Give or take. So it was looking pretty tough for those 3 seasons. But then last year he comes in, they kind of ramped up his conditioning and some different things to keep him healthy. Even benching him a couple games, right? Having him come off the bench to start the games. That was like a short-lived experiment, but they did a few different things, and it ultimately worked. Played 72 games. I think there was a small part in the back of every Hornets fan's mind that said, gosh, we had him healthy for the whole year, but we couldn't get out of the play-in. I don't know if he can do this, if he can replicate this again next year. So even though most Hornets fans are still not happy about them trading this, I think if they listen to themselves deep in the recesses of their mind, they would hear that little voice that says, yeah, but he probably wasn't going to play 72 games again next year too.
I mean, that's the side of it, right? Like for the Wolves, if LaMelo plays the next 10 years in Minnesota and averages 65 games a year, they're geniuses, right? And there's also a really good likelihood that LaMelo plays the next 3 years in Minnesota and plays 35 games, and the Wolves have no picks until 2034 that are under their own control, which then Charlotte looks like geniuses. So it does like make sense. Pack mentality brings up. Good thing we have the Mayo Clinic and Rudy here. Yeah, Rudy, LaMelo, I don't know if they're going to be like the new buddy cop duo, but like it would make sense for LaMelo to just buddy up next to Rudy and use his cryo chamber and red light therapy room and all of the wild things that Rudy Gobert has in his Minneapolis abode. Will, the last thing I wanted to ask you is just, you do cover the Wolves, or you did cover the Wolves a few years ago, and I know you're still keeping tabs on them. I mean, what's it like kind of having a full circle moment with Naz Reid going to the Hornets? And then also just what can fans like expect from Naz Reid in a Hornets uniform? Because it seems like for him too, like this is still going to be a good opportunity for him.
Yeah, I made that realization earlier today. I said, man, the first time I really covered the Wolves intensely was the summer of 2022, just after the Gobert trade went down. And, that was when I kind of started learning more about Nas and who he is as a player. And, that was kind of before he really blew up in terms of being a total fan favorite and the Nas Reid towels and 2 words and all that kind of stuff. It kind of happened overnight. But I really think he's going to be a great fit in Charlotte for sure. Still remains to be seen what actually happens, right? Like the Hornets, I'm not convinced Jeff Peterson is done making moves. So there's always the possibility Nas ends up getting flipped, moved somewhere else. But for now, I'm looking forward to having him in a Hornets uniform. Yeah, I mean, 6th man of the year, great player, stretches the floor, just an incredibly skilled big guy. I love him. I positively love him. I'm very thrilled to have him in Charlotte. In terms of the fit on the roster, obviously, unfortunately, been a better fit with LaMelo, right? With an incredible playmaker. That's the irony of it all. But I do like him playing off of guys like Brandon and Khan, and again, being that floor spacer, guy that can step up and hit a lot of threes. That can play big on the interior too. I think it's a fantastic fit for sure. So we'll see. Hopefully, number 11 remains in a Charlotte uniform. But I think there's still a lot left to be done too.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is like this trade is being looped in with the Julius Randle trade, and there's still 5 days, I believe, before the Julius Randle trade can actually be official. Which, like, who knows how big that trade? I mean, that could be like a 13-team trade by the end of this. If the Hornets move someone, and then also like seems like Josh Green is likely to get moved to another team as well. I mean, this could be one of the biggest trades in NBA history, just by like player volume, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all found out after the fact that this was actually looped into the Randall trade too, right? We thought it was a separate thing altogether.
Yeah.
But it makes sense because the Wolves. By the way, I want to take a second to give a shout out to Tim Conley for making this whole thing happen because when you make the Randall trade, right? Well, Nas is going to be the starting power forward. And I tweeted this morning. I was like, man, how quickly can things change?
Yeah,
he was set to be the starting power forward. I think John Krasinski tweeted it. It's just kind of like a big moment of congratulations for Nas. Like, man, you kind of wanted to start for a long time. You got it now, man. Surprise. Things happen, man. Business is business. May end up starting in Charlotte, right? But again, I want to give a shout out to Tim Conley because he is, I think, what an NBA GM should be. I have a lot of respect for Jeff Peterson as well. But in terms of Tim Conley and his ability to, well, really just his fearlessness, right? He is not afraid to make a big deal. I made a note today in my head. I said, every 2 years we've gotten a crazy deal from Tim Conley. We got the Gobert trade. We got the Cat trade. Now we got this. And, I think he said the words himself at you guys' exit interview day, but he was like, if I'm going to get fired from this job, I want to go out swinging. I want to know that I at least tried to build a winner and didn't just rest on my laurels and try to hope things come around and work for me while I'm just sitting. And I really respect that. I think it's a great way to do the job.
To your point, on Tuesday night, Tim Connolly spoke to us after the first round of the draft, in which they didn't make a selection. So we all sat around for 3 hours and then talked to Tim Connolly. That was his joke, not mine. But he was talking about how excited he is and how much he thinks Nas can add as a playmaker and be in this starting unit. And we're going to see this sub 26 group. And then last night, about by timing, it was probably 10 hours before the trade, Matt Lloyd, the assistant GM, also went out and was like, yeah, Nas, we feel like he has this upper echelon, that he can be more of a playmaker. There's room for him to grow. He feels confident on defense. And then 10 hours later, he's in Charlotte, which, talk about things change fast, because I know Nas loves like Minneapolis, Minnesota. He talked to me about it at length last year, especially just like must be a whirlwind. Will, I do want to give you a chance though. Where can people find you? Where can people read your stuff? And before you start, I am going to say, like, if you are a Nas Reed fan and want to kind of see his journey moving forward, Will does a lot of the same stuff I do, where, like, you know, puts up clips from practices, puts up clips from press conferences. Like, he's an awesome follow. So I'm going to give you a shout out first, but now the floor is yours, sir.
I appreciate that, man. Yeah, if you guys would like to follow my stuff, I do a lot of independent writing over on my Substack. That's eudyreport.substack.com. It's my last name. If you don't know how to spell it, it's on my Twitter. And then from there, do a lot of writing on culture.com, CLT, URE. If you don't know, in Charlotte, CLT is just our abbreviation for the city. So I'm doing a lot of more local event-based publications over there. But yeah, absolutely going to be covering Nas and his journey. Again, fingers crossed he actually stays in the city, because I'd love to talk to him more and get to know him more. And yeah, man, I appreciate you having me on.
Of course. Thanks for making it work on no notice at all. I figured we should probably do something to add to the people's commute home about this trade. But for people that did join in here late, it does get posted up on YouTube, X, and Buzzer as soon as I end the stream. And it will be out as a podcast on the Missing Wolves podcast feed, anywhere you get your podcasts, tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. I will be back probably on Saturday doing another just kind of Wolves show. If I decide not to do that, I'll be back on Sunday post game after the Wings Lynx game. But thank you everyone for listening. Will, again, I appreciate you a ton. And boy, what a day, right?
Still processing it all, man. We're going to be